Good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody. My name is Sarah, and today we have a pretty awesome book to talk about. Carry On by Rowell. Let's be clear, this is not my genre. This is not my type of book. I've kind of been leaning out of fantasy, and I'm not into romance. So, as you can tell, it's not the thinnest book in the world. So naturally, given the circumstances, I gave myself 3 weeks to read this. I read it in 3 days. I really liked this book, guys, and I'm having a hard time trying to figure out exactly what I want to talk about because there's so much in this book that I love, but there's also things that you can't deny need to be changed, or at very least looked at in a questionable light. A lot of them are my own opinion, and they're just kind of like, well, that's the circumstances, but at the same time, I don't know. You'll understand when you watch this video. For those of you who don't know, which I'm not sure who doesn't know because it's quite popular book, this is set in a Harry Potter-esque universe. It's this magical people, but they're set apart from normal people. They go to their own magical school. Magical bloodlines are incredibly important, to the point where a magical child is never abandoned. Like, if a child is born that isn't wanted, they're given to someone else who knows of magic. They don't drop a magical child off in a normal world because they don't want the child to grow up like that. And our main character, Simon Snow, was a magical child abandoned in the normal universe. So when Simon realizes that he is in fact magical, it's when he arrives at this school. He realizes that there's this whole world that he's been left out of, and he is absolutely amazed. When I say it's a Harry Potter-like book, it really is, because Simon Snow is the chosen one. Simon Snow is the worst chosen one ever chosen. Now, this book does not stray away from gay relationships at all. The best friend of Simon, actually her roommate, is in a lesbian relationship with a pixie, half pixie, but pixie. And she doesn't like going back to her dorm because they push the beds together and leave pixie dust everywhere. And so it's like, this book, if you're even uncomfortable with that kind of topic, stay away from this book at all costs. Because, well, Simon's roommate, Bast, he's a vampire and he's also gay. So, it doesn't stray away from tropes, and it's very strong in relationships. The review on this back of the book says, come for the makeouts, stay for the magic. Because, let's be real, it's a pretty awesome magic system. Going over the magic system, if you guys are familiar with the Invisible Library series, it has a very similar magic system to it. The magic is constructed around language, and the language are words, but they're words with meaning. So you take something like a nursery rhyme, something that has been said over and over and over again, and you put power behind it, you put magic. Simon can't control his magic that well, so he doesn't like using it. But Bast is one of the best magic users in this universe. Unfortunately, there's some circumstances behind why that is. You see, Bast comes from 2 very strong bloodlines, 2 very powerful ones. His mother was the headmistress of the school before she died in the vampire attack that made Bast a vampire. And he's expected to be powerful. He's expected to be this great noble guy, but at the same time, he's discriminated against. People know he's a vampire. It's never been said, but people see it. This book, one of my main problems with this book is the fact that it's a standalone. And that may sound really weird to say it like that, but the way this book was written, it was based off the fan fiction and a previous work done by this author. And so we don't get to see the build-up of relationship. We don't get to see the characters. This book takes place in the 7th year of these kids going to this magical school. So these kids have known each other for so long, and they keep referring to things that we don't know about. And it's expected that we build a story behind it, which is great if you can do it really well, but at the same time, it has a kind of disconnect to the reader from the book, and it's kind of sad because I really wanted to get into this book. I love this book, but at the same time, it was you take a step back and you realize it's off-putting. It's very strange to read it like that. But it's a standalone, so what can you do? You can't make a prequel because all the information is already in this book. Now, Simon and Bas have been roommates since the first year. There's a ceremony that has the roommates all come together, and that's how they pick, and they stay that way for years. It's this magical ceremony that you can't break. And Simon is obsessed with proving Bas is a vampire. And it kind of boils over in this book, and it's, yes, he's a vampire, but he doesn't want to be. He didn't choose that life. He was forced upon it, and he's doing everything in his way not to be like it, to remain humane, to remain magical. When people in this universe who have magic are turned into vampires, they often lose their magic. And the fact that Bas still has his, and he is still drinking blood at nights, it's very unique for the character, because he's put in a situation that no one really knows how to deal with. And that also causes some situations he doesn't want to deal with. In the very beginning of the book, Bas is missing. He's gone for the first chunk of the book, and the moment he arrives back, he just walks in like nothing happened, and it's later revealed that he was kidnapped because of what he is, and he doesn't want to reveal it to the world because people already know, but they already discriminate against him. And so the fact that if he goes out and tells people, it will only make things worse. Another thing that he's worried about being judged is the fact that he has a crush on his roommate, Simon. And this book is so good, guys. But there's problems with it, and I don't know how to bring it up without seeing... Because, like, when I read this book, I was in love with it. I read it in 3 days, like I said. I devoured this book. This book was amazing to me. But when I finished it and sat down to get ready to prep my review and stuff, I realized it's not a perfect book. It's kind of the book that you love when you're reading, and you adore it, and you love the characters and everything that happens, and then you finish it, and it just feels wrong. The ending of this book was amazing. I actually really enjoyed how they ended up all together, and things ended up great. And like, it sets the characters up for so much more, but at the same time, it closes the story quite well. But finishing this book, you just realize it's not the same as when you're reading it. Looking back on it, I feel like if I reread this book, I won't have the same opinion as I did when I first read it, and that's why I don't really want to reread this book, even though it's so beautiful and it's amazing, and I love the characters, and I love the setting and the exposition, and like, if it gets me to love the exposition, guys, this book, okay, like, but it deserves to be New York Times #1 bestseller. It really does. It's amazing, it's beautiful, and I can't say that enough, but at the same time, it's not perfect, and that's something you need to acknowledge. Overall, I give this book a 12 out of 13. It's not perfect, but I love it so much, I can't give it any less. But I can't give it a 13 out of 13 because looking back, I see problems, but I also see potential. One of the problems I have with this book is that it sets Simon up in a certain light. Because he was abandoned in a normal world, people start to believe maybe he's the first magical child from the normal world, but later in the book, it kind of goes back on that, and it reveals who Simon's parents actually are, but it's done in such a way that feels really awkward. Like, I enjoyed reading the revelation, I enjoyed figuring it out, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of strange. I don't know. This actually goes along with one of my more favorite things about this book. The headmaster really reminds me of how the fandom portrays Dumbledore. Like, there's two ways of viewing Dumbledore, the great, noble, light wizard, and the sly, cunning, questionable morals, do it for the greater good, forget the cost kind of guy. And the headmaster of this, the mage, he really reminds me of that kind of sly, cunning, it's for the greater good, forget who gets hurt, it's in the long haul that matters. And it makes you question things that it makes you look back on Dumbledore, and it's like, wait a minute, back up. You put an 11-year-old into mortal danger to get a rock that you already have. Like, I know, it makes you question things, and I actually really enjoyed it, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to put my thought in this. Thank you so much for watching my review. If you have any suggestions on what you want me to read next, leave them down in the comment section below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, good night, good evening, and good morning, everybody.